How's everybody? Good. Made it through this week. Kids go back to school tomorrow. Anybody excited about that? Yeah. Y'all didn't say a word down here on the front row. They don't look real excited. Parents are usually excited. It's good to see people out. I saw someone out this week. I said, "How's it going this week?" They said, "Good." I said, "You got all the kids home this week?" "Yeah." "Okay." So it's about Thursday, so it kind of gets like that sometimes. But we're continuing in our series, Transformed this week in talking about money. Now, hold on before you go, "Well, I know that's all the church ever talks about is money." You hear that a lot, amen? I hear it. You talk about that offering every week. Talk about taking up an offering every week. Well, we kind of got to have it, right? You got to have a job, you work, you go. So today we're going to be talking about how the different aspects of money affect us. You know, Jesus talked a lot about money. Half his parables were about material possessions and money. Talked more about money than probably anything else. Believe it or not. But here's the thing about that. We're talking about money and what it is to us, what it should mean to us, how it goes for that. It seems like sometimes the church does get a bad rap. Because if you mention it in any sermon at all, if you have a sermon, a whole series on it, whoo! Church is all about money. But how about this? When you go to Food Line or a grocery store, they don't go, "Here's your groceries, have a nice day." You go to the barber shop, beauty shop, you get a haircut, or you get a cut and color, or if you get a style cut and color, or a perm, or a flat top, when you pay for that, and I didn't know this for the longest time, you're supposed to give a tip. I didn't know that. I was just like, well, be careful crossing the street. That's a good tip. They don't like it, but it's a good tip. But we don't have any trouble doing that. We get good service at a restaurant. When we get up there, we don't say the food was good, see you next week, and walk out the door. What do we have to do? You have to pay. And then your server should get a tip. A good one. Which, did you know that most servers hate working on Sundays? You know why? Because Christians give the lowest amount of tips of anybody, according to some that I know that have worked in that industry, and families that I know that go to our church that have students who've worked in the waiter industry, and they go, "Good grief, there were 17 of them. They were rude, they were hateful, and they left $1.81. You laugh, but that's true. So the church should not be put into a different category when it comes to talking about money, because the whole world talks about getting your money and needing your money and what you should do with your money, but the church shouldn't have an opinion. Well, I hate to tell you that the Bible talks a lot about money. And I hate to tell you that also the church shouldn't have an opinion about politics. The pastor should just be quiet about that. Guess what? I'm human, and I've told you I mess up, and I'm a sinner just like everybody else. I got an opinion on that too. I'm not going to give it to you today, but I have an opinion on that. So the church needs to stop being silent about these things just because somebody is offended. I mean, good grief. If somebody looks at you anymore, you can be offended and sue them. And win. That's the thing, and win. So, enough about that. If you have your Bibles this morning, turn to Luke chapter 16. Now, the reason we want to talk about money is because money, somebody messed with this chair. I don't know. That's for a short person. I'm like 6'4", standing on a crate. But money has power and influence in our lives. Money has power and influence in our lives. And it also has power and influence in other people's lives. And we see that power and influence in other people's lives, and then we would like a slice of that power and influence. So that money is sometimes a driver for us when it shouldn't be. The other thing is you have to manage money, or money manages you. It's one of those two. And if we took a survey this morning, I would say that you would probably fall into one of those two categories. Either you are managing your money or it is managing you. It might be sometimes we have times where it manages us, but most of the time, hopefully, we're managing it. Now, this is a story that's sometimes misunderstood, the parable of the shrewd manager. And it is a story about someone who worked for an employer who was actually a crook and getting ready to get fired. Now, the thing about this story is we need to put it in perspective, because Jesus is sharing it with the Pharisees. And he wanted to shock them and show them a little something about money and this crook. Now, you might say, well, now, are you saying Jesus is saying we should be like this guy? No. But he's saying we can learn something from that, even though he's not doing what he should be doing. He's saying we can learn from that. We can always learn from that. So, Luke chapter 16 says, there was a certain rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. One day a report came that the manager was wasting his employer's money. So the employer called him in and said, "What's this I hear about you? Get your report in order, because you are going to be fired." Not a good start to the day. The manager thought to himself, now what? My boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches, and I'm too proud to beg. At least he's honest, right? I'm going to lose my job. I'm not strong enough to get out here and work hard, and I am certainly not going to go beg, because I'm too proud for that. So now what? What am I going to do? I know how to ensure that I'll have plenty of friends who will give me a home when I'm fired. So he came up with a plan. So he invited each person who owed money to his employer to come and discuss the situation. Now think about this. He's laying it out there to look out for his employer? No. Who? Himself. Himself, that's right. So he says, he asked the first one, "How much do you owe him?" The man replied, "I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil." So the manager told him, "Take the bill and quickly change it to 400 gallons. Evidently, they had the ability to change that without anybody knowing. So that's two things he shouldn't have done. But he's working on this plan to keep people in the loop, friends in the loop, so that he would have a way to make ends meet. Now, before you look at this guy and you go, man, there's nothing I can learn from that person. There's nothing good from that person. If you had to have major surgery, a heart surgery, brain surgery, some type of organ transplant, when your doctor came in, you probably wouldn't go, "Hey, now, did you go to church last week? Are you having an affair with anybody? What do you would probably say, "How many of these have you done? How good are you at this?" regardless of what else was going on, you would want to know, was he, she good at what they do? So we can learn from this. Because if I ask this morning, who has changed something, made something, done something in their life that they shouldn't have done, like this manager did, probably be lots of us go. Had a friend in school. He had a situation not like this, but he got an F in English. And that was a big deal to him because his dad was very shrewd. His dad was very smart. His dad was very knowledgeable, and he expected that from his children. And he was kind of rough. And he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he came to me. Why? I don't know. But I said, here's what you should do. I can't believe I'm admitting this after all these years. But the teacher has since retired, so I think we're good to go. He was in the 7th grade, and he got an F, and he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, what would your dad be okay with? He said, a C. I said, change it. He said, it's written in ink. I said, they have ink erasers. They got those new pens with the eraser on it. Erase it off, put a C, get your dad to sign it, erase the C, put an F. Teacher won't ever know. And I thought, man, he almost erased a hole in that thing. Getting that the second time. The first one, boom, put the C, boom. His dad signed it, boom. Like they never got the C off to put the F. Put it back on there. Walking around. Will you believe it? They never said a word. Might have been because he caught his dad going out the door one morning and said, I need you to sign my report card. And then the report card time came due, and he didn't have his turn back in, and he said, you need to bring your report card. He said, oh, okay, here it is. Boom, done. Whew. Okay, Lord, forgive me for that. I'm so sorry. Amen. All right. That was a bad thing. That was a bad thing. But people do bad things when they get in bad situations. Amen. One thing leads to another. You see how this goes. So then he calls in the next person. And how much do you owe my employer? He asked the next man. I owe him 1,000 bushels of wheat, was the reply. Here the manager said, take the bill and change it to 800 bushels. The rich man had to admire. Now listen, he admired it. He wasn't pleased with it, but he admired it. The dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. And it is true that the children of this world, get this, are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of the light. So shouldn't we be a little more in tune to what Jesus teaches us about money? Here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your earthly possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. If you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibility. So it's more than just about money. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things that are not your own? No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. See, he wanted to shock the Pharisees with this story because they didn't think he would share something like that. Because, you see, they were self-righteous, judgmental hypocrites who loved money. And he said, so, hey, here's a story for you. And then verse 14 and 15 I'll share with you. It says, the Pharisees who dearly loved their money heard all this and scoffed at him. Then he said to them, you like to appear righteous in public, but God knows your hearts. What this world honors, hear this, is detestable in the sight of God. What this world honors is detestable in the sight of God. In verse 8, he says, and it is true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than the children of the light. So in some aspects, maybe we need to be more shrewd managers of what we've been given. See, this morning I want to share with you 4 things not to do with money and 5 things that are countercultural that we need to understand about money. And if you do these, it will transform your life. It will transform your finances. It will transform your home. So the first one is, don't waste it. Don't waste it. Verse 2, so the employer called him in and said, what's this I hear about you? Get your report in order because you are going to be fired. Because he had been wasting his employer's money. How much money do we, and yes, I say we, waste every single day? Every single day. One of the dearest ladies I ever knew was a teacher, and she never married. She never was with anybody as far as relationship, as far as I know, spent her life helping other people. It was just a single teacher who loved helping people. And upon her death, she gave a lot of money to her church. But when asked about going out to eat or stopping at a store to get a snack, I've always been impressed by this, and some of you may know who I'm talking about. She said, I always keep some Cokes and some crackers in my car. Always. She said, that way I don't get hungry and I don't have to pick what somebody else wants me to have. I got my own choice. I'm in control. I thought, wow. So don't waste it. Secondly, don't love it or live for it. Don't love it or live for it. Verse 13, no one can serve 2 masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Sometimes at the heart of the problem is our heart. You ever tried to work for 2 bosses? Had 2 people telling you, what, I don't care what he said, this is how I want it done. You go over here and you do it. And then this guy, they go, why are you doing? Well, he said, and you're in a mess. You see, we can't serve both God and money. So don't love it, don't live for it. Pretty straightforward. See, what we need to do is love people and use money. But guess what we do sometimes? We love money and do what? Use people. Those of you who are used sometimes, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes we are used for the gain of others. So love people, use money. Thirdly, don't trust it for security. Verse 3, the manager thought to himself, now what? My boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches, and I'm too proud to beg. Don't trust it for security. If I had to just lay it all out there and we were all being honest with each other, many of you know what it's like to be called into someone's office and for them to say, you know what, we're going to downsize. I'm sorry. And this was your very thought. What am I going to do? You know, some of us maybe have all these investments, and you've got investments for retirement and investments for college and those kinds of things, and those are things we should be doing. We're supposed to make plans. We're supposed to do those kinds of things. However, one bad day, 2 bad days, a bad week with the stock market, and guess what? We're going, what happened? It's all gone. Most of it's gone. So don't trust in it for security. Fourthly, don't expect satisfaction. Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, whoever loves money will never have enough, and whoever loves wealth will never be satisfied with his income. Luke 12:15, guard against all kinds of greed, because your life is not measured by how much you own. Our lives are not measured by how much we own. But sometimes we feel like that, don't we? Especially when other people own more than we do. Especially when other people own maybe that one thing that we wouldn't mind to have. Crazy thing happened the other day along this line. We were in Hickory at a stoplight, and I guess this is what teenagers do now. I don't know. But if you're on 6470 on a Friday or Saturday evening at all, the pendulum kind of swings back and forth from a street rod show to a drag strip. Just depends. Just depends. So we were trying to beat the crowd and be a little early, but we were driving along, and in my truck, F-250, 345,000 miles on it. Few little character building marks on the sides of it, and just going along sitting at a stoplight. And all of a sudden, this like almost new F-250, may have been a 350, I don't know, 6-inch lift kit, probably $3,000 worth of wheels and tires on it, and a blonde-headed girl in the passenger seat looking at me. I guess it was a game to see what I would do, going, hey, hey! I thought she was obviously on something. I don't know. So I looked over, and I was looking at that truck, and I first looked right over here, and I'm right about the door, halfway over at the door. I'm like, hey. And I thought, what just happened here? The guy's like 20 years old. And I'm thinking either his daddy's got money or he's doing something else that I need to look into part-time online, stuffing envelopes from home. I don't know. But wow. And so I was going, he owns way more truck than I got. And I'm 50 years old. I could be his dad. And so for a minute, you can't help but go, man, that's a sweet truck. Ugh. But I guess she got points because she got my attention, and I waved. And I thought, huh. Because if I do that to somebody, they're going to be like, what? They're going to look at my truck and go, what? Yeah, it's old and wore out like you are. Okay, so we got to know, hey, we're in church. So here's the thing. We got to understand that we can't expect money or stuff or things we own to bring satisfaction, because it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. So we can't conform to this world, but we've got to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. We got to get a different mindset on this thing. So here are the 5 things. Here are the 5 things that are countercultural to what we would normally expect. And if you remember these and expect God to do something with these in your lives and you do them, it will completely transform you. Completely transform you in how you view money. First is this: it all belongs to God. It all belongs to God. So here's the thing: we don't really own anything. Well, but I got some land that's mine, and it's when you leave this place, you leave that land. When you leave this place, you leave your bank account. When you leave this place, you leave your vehicles. When you leave this place, you leave your home. When you leave this place, you leave your loved ones here until such a time as they are called home as well. So it's all His. So if it's all His, and it's all on loan, and we're all managers, like the manager of this story, how well are you taking care of God's property? How well are you taking care of this body? How well are you taking care of what He's entrusted you with? So, well, He's only entrusted me with a little. Well, then be faithful in that little so that you might be a ruler over much. I wish He would trust me with more. Wish He would trust me with more. Well, guess what? If we're not doing what we need to do with the little, do you think we're going to get more? No. So it's all His. And this guy was wasting his employer's money. So what happens when we waste God's money? What if every time we spent money, now think about this. What if every time we spent money on anything, we said, God, I'm spending your money on this meal. God, I'm spending your money on this tip. God, I'm spending your money on these tires. God, I'm spending your money on this or that. Would it make a difference in what you do with it? You have to decide that. Next, God uses money to test our faithfulness. He tests our faithfulness first, and then He tests us continually with these things that come up about money. Because you see what it does, it shows what we love. The Bible says, don't store up treasures here on this earth. Instead, store up treasures where? Where? Heaven. He deserves and insists on first place in our lives. It shows what we trust. Do we trust Him? Do we trust our own selves? We've got to be proven trustworthy. See, how I handle money determines a lot of things about me. It determines how much I'm connected to God. It determines how much He can trust me with and how much He can give me that I might be a blessing to others. Thirdly, money is a tool to be used for God's purposes. Go back to chapter 16, verse 9. It says, here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your earthly possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. Use temporary resources for permanent good. Temporary resources for permanent good. How can I take these dollars and make an impact on the future? How can I take these dollars and make a difference in people's lives and a difference in people's eternity? You know, I'm always amazed when you go to hospitals or places like that, or even universities, but especially to hospitals, when you see an entire children's wing or an entire children's building named after someone, and you know it must have cost $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, whatever at the time, maybe $20 or $30 million, and it has one person's name on it. You go, man, they must have had something that they felt in their heart, a pain perhaps that they needed to do something about, and they invested in the future. So we have to ask ourselves the question, what are we going to do now? Verse 3, he said, now what? I don't have the strength to dig ditches, and I'm too proud to beg. I got to move on. I got to do something. What am I going to do? He had to come up with a plan. And you see, when he came up with that plan, he had to act quickly. He didn't delay, he didn't procrastinate. He had to act quickly. This is the thing Jesus commends, that he quickly got a plan and acted on it. How many times do we say tomorrow, next week, next month, next check? And then we turn around and guess what? It's that month, it's that 6 months, it's that year, it's time to do taxes again. And you're like, man, I was going to do more. I was going to give more. I was going to help more. I was going to change more people's lives. But I waited too long. And see, this is the opposite of our culture, which says spend it now. Spend it right now and spend it on what you want it on. Not how it might impact eternity. Not how it might change the future for someone. You know, there was a while back, there was this push for pay it forward or random act of kindness. And there were times that I would go to a drive-through. This happened on 2 different occasions. That I got to the drive-through window and somebody said, yours has already been taken care of. And maybe the thing we normally would do would be go, good. But for some other people I've talked to that happened to, what do? We get excited about it and we go, hey, how much is the person behind me? And they say, it's a 15-passenger van. And I go, thank you. No. You say, how much was the person behind me? And if it's not 34 people on an activity bus, you take care of it. And then what happens when they get to the window? Same thing, because we're trying to pay it forward and do more with those dollars that we have. But sometimes we wait and we miss it, or sometimes we spend it now on us and we don't have it to do that with. Fourthly, and moving quickly, the best use of our money is to reach people. Reach people. Now, are you saying I can buy my way into heaven by giving more at church? Nope. Are you saying I can buy salvation for someone by giving them money? Nope. But I can invest in the things that help people come to know Christ. I can invest in the things that help children be just permeated with the gospel and everything that they do in the children's areas. I can help other people who are having a hard time see that I'm going to help them because God loved me and has blessed me, so I am going to bless them. And they say, why are you doing this? That is your open door to the gospel. That's how we do that. So the best way to invest is to invest in reaching people. Make friends for eternity. Gain rewards for all of eternity. Because, you see, if we store up treasures here on this earth, you know where they're going to be later? On this earth. So you have to decide what's the best use of your money. Oh, wait, it's not your money. Whose is it? God's. Whose body are you walking around in? God's. Whose earth are you walking on? God's. Whose house are you living in? God's. It's on loan. It's on loan. And when we get that, then that radically changes how we view money and what we do with it. Because finally, number 5. Verse 2 says, so the employer called him in and said, what's this I hear about you? Get your report in order because you're going to be fired. You see, fifthly, we're going to have to one day give an account to God. And we'll have to get our report in order, and we'll stand there and say, here's what I did with that you blessed me with. Here's what I did with that you blessed me with. And so it's going to be, how much did we do for the kingdom? Don't know that he's going to care how much stuff we owned. Don't know that he's going to care how much stuff our kids had to go through and clean out. And all those things we think are going to be so valuable. It'd be worth so much money when they first come out. Oh, I'm going to put that back. I'm going to put that back because that's going to be worth money. I don't know why, but it comes to me when I was a kid. We would always, a big treat for us was getting to go to Hardee's. It was a big treat. Now kids go, ugh. But when you don't go somewhere like that twice a day, you only go once every 2 or 3 weeks or a month, it's a big deal to go out to eat. Now it's not a big deal. Now it's like, I don't want that. Well, good, you can have nothing. That will increase the atmosphere in your vehicle, by the way. Just throwing that out there. But they had Looney Tunes glasses. I don't know if you remember those. They were really thick, good, nice cartoon glasses. Limited time only collector's editions. You know what that means? Come back to Hardee's every week while we have them. That's all that means. That's code for that. But my mom always said, we got to get them all. We got to get them all. They're going to be worth money one day. So we got them all. She cleaned them. She wrapped them in newspaper. She stuffed something down in them so they wouldn't break. And the things we do that are like that, bless her heart, she thought they were going to be worth so much money. You know how much they're actually worth now? I don't know. We can't find them. So if I knew where they were, I would check them out. But we have no idea where they are. And isn't that how we do most stuff? Most of our stuff. We're like, oh, it's going to be this. It's going to be that. Oh, it's good. 20 years later, I know they're somewhere. Maybe one day we'll find them. But you see, we'll give an account to God for what we've done with our money. And verse 10 says, if you're faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And hear this, if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? Growing up, we would borrow things from the neighbor, and it was always make sure you wash that shovel, rinse it off with the hose, make sure it's nice and clean, take it back over there nice. You don't just go over there and throw it in the yard. You take care of other people's things. Where are we in that today? Sometimes we just think we're entitled to our own stuff. Matthew 25:29 says this, and I'll close. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. what will you do with what you've been given? See, it's not so much about how much, it's what we do with it. So this morning I have a few questions for you. Does God really have first place in my life? Is He really the filter that I run all my money stuff through? Can God trust me with what He's given me? Does the way I'm using money now show God I can be trusted? And then finally, because of what I've done with what He's trusted me with, will there be anyone in heaven because of what I've done with it? Boom. Will there be anyone in heaven because of what you have done with your money, or with your talent, or with your time? All these things that are on loan. Because you see, there's a mindset nowadays of when I hit it big, I'm gonna. Man, when I hit it big, I'm gonna really do this. Even when we had a lottery nationwide of $1 billion, I'm thinking probably nobody did anything big with it. They said, I only got part of it. I only got like 500 million. Why did I have to split it with those people? That was crazy. So now I'm going to save it and let it draw interest. Maybe I'll be a billionaire one day, and then I'll do something. And it's never enough. The Bible's clear. So what are you doing with what you have that will bring people to Christ, that they might have eternal life? Would you pray with me? God, this morning I pray that you would just move as only you can. God, people have been praying for an outpouring this morning of hearts and minds and souls to get right with you, Lord. So you move as only you can, Lord. You move us. You stretch us. You grow us. Lord, with our money, with our time, with our talents. God, let us be good stewards, because if we're faithful over a little, you'll make us the rulers over much. But Father, if we can't be trusted with a little, we know that much will never come our way. So God, you meet people right where they are. You move them to this altar this morning. And God, for those who don't know you, Lord, I pray you just move them forward this morning as well. All the way to the very front of the stage, to my right, their left. God, you move them as only you can. As those 4 came forward last week, God, you move. And we'll thank you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.